Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Energy Gal Holistic Wellness Podcast. I'm Lisa, intuitive healer and spiritual guide, and it is our intention to create for us a space of curiosity, compassion, and courage for all of us on our spiritual journey, on that awakening, that remembering, discovering, and being who we are. So we have transformational conversations. I know for me, my journey began when I realized that everybody's on a journey and everybody has had stuff happen to them. And you can move through that, glean the glitter and the gold from it, and continue on in your journey. You don't have to lay cement, lay a foundation, and live in that space. You can pick up tent stakes and move it on. And so it's been encouraging for me to hear other people's stories. Well, I've had so much healing in those stories. And there's been someone who has been eyewitness to it all. This dude right here. Yeah. This is my husband, Steve. And he's my best friend, and we've been together for nearly 40 years. Can you believe it's been that long?
Yes.
We met each other when we were 2. We popped on today as our little Gia Furbutt is outside enjoying her after dinner treat to share with you something that is near and dear to our hearts, and that is our own stories of some pretty miraculous things that have happened in our life. And I'm telling you, we could spend the next 3 days unpacking for you the miracles that have happened in our lives. And we know that Jesus said, even greater things than I have done that you guys will do. And we kind of took Jesus at his word about that. So we have seen a lot of miracles. The miracle of forgiveness, you know, the miracle of humility, the miracle of... Gosh, remember when our 2 boys were having such a tough time? Man, we prayed for them, and we saw the miracle of them getting back together again. Mm-hmm. And now they're closer than ever. Yeah. They're probably best friends.
Probably, yes, I would say that.
So those are the miracles that we've seen, but we've also seen miracles of provision. And we have a story that we like to call...
The meatball story.
The meatball story. And he was with me to witness it. And so I'm going to let him unpack the story because he's so credible. He's so sane and articulate in the way he unpacks it.
Okay, I don't know about articulate. But yeah, it's true. It was years ago. Our kids were very young.
5 of them.
Yep. And it was like during the summertime when everybody was busy. And we have 5 kids. We have a daughter and 4 boys. And the daughter's the youngest one. The boys all have friends around the neighborhood, you know.
And they always came to eat.
Yes. Usually everybody would come and eat at our house. Well, on this particular day, we were just throwing together a quick dinner. And it was just going to be spaghetti and meatballs. That's it, just spaghetti and meatballs. And back then we didn't have the time around the house to make meatballs ourselves. We would buy the frozen package of meatballs. And so on this particular day, we're trying to get a feel for who's going to be home for dinner and who to expect. And Austin was like, well, I'm going to be at Bryce's. And Adam's like, I'm going to be with Patrick. And Andrew's going to be with this one. And Alex is going to be with that one. And when we went to start making dinner, it seemed like it was just going to be me, Alicia, and Lisa, the 3 of us. So I wasn't going to make that much. So, you know, when you get the water boiling and you're going to make the pasta, and you know, we threw in probably less than a dozen frozen meatballs on the cookie sheet into the oven, and just a part of a box of pasta, break it in half, put in. Anyway, long story short, I was only cooking for 3. So no sooner does the water get boiling and, you know, dinner's just about ready when Austin and Bryce walk in the door, and Adam and Patrick walk in the door, and Andrew and somebody else. There were 6 of them. Boys, like teenage boys, come in and they're ready for dinner. So it was very unexpected. And I was like, oh, gosh, I can remember being at the stove thinking, I don't have enough food here for, 9 people? I was cooking for 3, especially the boys, because they can really put it away.
I remember doing a lot more cooking than he's giving me credit.
Yes, okay. But I can remember standing at the stove and I thought, okay, I'm going to make a sandwich. because, like we had the spaghetti meatballs and everybody was into it, but
there wasn't going to be enough.
There wasn't going to be enough. But, as soon as everybody gets in and we're setting the table, and in the moment, I just got caught up in the moment. Everybody's talking about things going on. I didn't make a sandwich. I'm getting the food onto the table, and everybody's sitting around. We had to pull a couple chairs out of the closet, and so I just started serving, and I completely lost track of the fact that I wasn't going to have enough food for everybody.
I remember we started the meal, we always do, by praying over the food and thanking God for the provision of food.
Yep. And so we're passing the dish around, and I'm not, without even thinking about it, the whole dinner episode, everybody ate.
Everybody ate their fill.
Everybody had food on the plate.
We're carrying on.
There was all kinds of conversation going on with the boys about all this and that going on.
I miss those days.
I kid you not. In the end, I had leftovers. I was like, and it wasn't until I was standing in the kitchen with the dishes and we were doing the dishes and stuff that I was like...
Yeah, I said to him, what do you, I think either I said or you said, what do you want me to do with the leftovers? And the other one laughed.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, there are leftovers.
Yeah.
So what did we eat?
I was asking everybody, did you guys get enough to eat? And they were like, yeah. I mean, and these are teenage boys, so believe me, they can put it away. But
it was definitely...
But it didn't occur to me until after the meal that I was like, wow, there's more. There's actually leftovers when we were only cooking for 3.
Yeah.
And 9 people sat down.
Yeah.
And everybody ate their fill.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like that little boy who brought his, little bit of food up.
Yes.
And the disciples were saying, well, what the hell are we going to do with this, And Jesus is like, this is what we've got. This is what we'll go with.
Yes.
And thanked God for it. And look at what ended up happening. And it's like in that frequency of laughter and gratitude and we were, unconditional in our opening up the doors for whoever wanted to come.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've tapped into a frequency of abundance.
Yeah.
And it was an abundance that came with ease. It was definitely not hard.
Yeah. No effort involved.
Effortless
and I think
provision.
that's the case quite often. I know a lot of times I'll ponder the concept of how much is enough when it comes to things. And even biblically speaking, I'm always surprised at how often God provides more than enough. Even when he fed on a daily basis, when he provided, whether it was the manna or the fish and the bread, there were always leftovers.
Yeah. So, well, the manna was just for that day.
Just for that day.
You couldn't save it. It was just for that day.
That's right.
But when the fishes and the loaves, they had 12 baskets of leftovers.
Yep.
So that was just that. We both kind of sat there with that for a while going, okay, that was incredible. As my friend Jackie would say, we're in Wonderland.
Yeah. That's what she would say.
So, well, thank you for unpacking that so well. The other thing, and I just wanted to keep this short, but the other thing I want to talk about is that dream that you had.
Oh, yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, because here's the thing, because I feel energies, and for whatever reason, I kind of feel things that are being stirred up, and what the possibilities of what could be unpacking in the next season. I've always just kind of had a bigger view of being able to see what's happening and what's going to be happening. And I know that there's going to be a lot of pretty big energies coming. And I think that some things are going to be happening that people want to be able to understand. Well, I'll do it, but I need to understand. And I think that we're coming into a time when the understanding doesn't happen here. The understanding happens in a different frequency. It's not as if you're throwing your brain in the trash can and going, yeah, I'm just going to follow blindly. That's not faith. That's not what I'm saying. It's a different kind of knowing that I think is coming. It's this effortless provision kind of knowing. And I think it's based in really awakening to our identity as God's spark. So that's why I want to unpack some of these supernatural things that have happened to us that now we're like, yep, we figure that's pretty much what's going, because that's the way we've been living. So anyway, go and unpack your dream.
This is the dream about waking up and the kids are older.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, I was, this is a dream I had years ago. And I had this dream when our kids were very young.
Very young.
Very young. And,
I remember you waking up and telling me it felt less like a dream and more like I'm remembering something.
It was one of those very realistic dreams. But, mostly because of her reaction and just the way that I felt inside when I woke up after having, but, again, the dream I had when our kids were young and very young, and I woke up in my dream. I woke up in a bed, and I realized I'm in a hospital bed. I can look around, and I can see that, and I'm a little bit disoriented, but Lisa's there, and she is so excited because I am awake. Evidently, I'd been out for a little bit. I'm not really sure what happened. I'm a little bit fuzzy, but she's very excited, and she says, good. She says, I have something for you. And she just couldn't wait to get to it. It was like she had Christmas presents or something. For a moment, I thought that's what it was, because she left the room and came right back in, and she was carrying these garbage bags, or black, like Glad garbage bags, and they were stuffed full of something. And there were like 2 or 3 of them, and she brought them in. They're really heavy. She opens up the first one, and she's like, and I could notice right away they were those cassette tapes, the
VHS,
the big VHS tapes.
You put in the VCR.
Yes, in the VCR, because those are the VCR days. And, but she had dozens, if not hundreds of them in these bags. And she said, I haven't missed a thing, she said. I want you to know that as much as possible, I've got it all right here. And I had no idea what she's talking about. So I'm starting to understand. She said, but before I start playing them, and the TV in the hospital room was all set up, the VHS players there. She said, I got to bring in the kids. And I was like, okay, bring in the kids. So she brings in the kids, and the kids are adults. I could not believe it. They walked in, and they were so glad to see me. And they lined up like they do, oldest to youngest, But there's Andrew, and he was this big, burly guy with, long beard and scraggly hair. And Alex was really tall and thin. But they were all like in their 20s.
And when you unpacked the dream to me, you were so specific in how each one of them looked.
Yeah,
I mean, you had all.
Oh, yeah.
It was in detail. And this one. And then, oh my gosh, we were so afraid about Austin. But he grows up and he's tall enough and da-da-da. And you picked apart every single one of them. And at the time, they were each just so tiny.
They were very young, very young. But yet there they were standing in front of me as young adults. And I realized, and this was Lisa. She's like, okay, now I have to break some news to you, and this is going to be really hard.
And this is in the dream.
This is in the dream. She says, you've been asleep for 19 years. And I said, 19 years? She said, yeah, not 19 days, not 19 hours. You've been out for 19 years. She said, but don't worry. And she's so excited. I have it all here.
I haven't missed a day.
She's got... me
and my journaling.
Yeah.
See, it came in handy.
And these tapes. And she's like, I'm going to start at the beginning, and we're going to go through 19 years. And the kids were all excited about it. But I was kind of shell-shocked in my dream about it. But again, the whole mood changed because I was a little bit upset in the dream, but she was just so casual and excited about showing me the 19 years worth of stuff that's kind of, and then I woke up.
I think the thing that gets me is that it was about 19 years after that. I don't know how many years. We'd have to actually sit down and do the math. That you ended up in a hospital bed with sepsis.
I never thought of that.
We weren't sure if you were going to make it. Yeah, it was a rough week. And the kids, when they came in to see you, they were all about that size. That's how they all looked.
Right.
They all grew up.
Yeah.
Andrew has a big burly beard, and
It's weird because now I can look at my kids today and be like, that is the way that they look in the dream.
the way they looked in
and
the
I
dream.
wouldn't have guessed that back then because they're just little. But yeah, that is how they turned out. It's weird.
I think if anybody's ever heard of Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about the quantum field. And these are big, deep topics, but he talks about the field of pure potential that is all around us. And sometimes when we get into that theta brainwave, we can capture a glimpse of a possibility of the future. And I'm wondering if that's, for whatever reason, what you did. You what I call remembered the future, and it's just so uncanny because I was there as you unpacked the dream those 19 years prior. And then when you went through the sepsis and the kids were that size, and you said, our kids ended up looking exactly like that dream I had. Do you realize that? And then I did the math and I'm like, you realize, time-wise, you remembered now.
Mm-hmm.
You remembered this moment, And I remember handling the moment with such cheer and optimism. I just didn't sense that this was a sickness that was going to take you out, even though, damn, it was pretty close.
That's just really sick.
Oh my God, that was pretty bad. But yeah, you healed, and so it was just the different frequencies and the different. I don't know. People have all sorts of words that they talk about, timeline shifts and all that other stuff. But all this to say, there is something beyond what it is that we are experiencing right here, right now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Some people want to call it heaven, or some people talk about, past lives or future lives or string theory because all the lives are happening at the same time. And I get lost in all the details, but all this to say is that whatever the veil is there is thinning, and we are able to sense with more than just our 5 earthly senses more. And I think that there's some kind of supernatural sensing that is going to be coming online, and for so many people already has, and that's where this effortless provision and this ability to walk in miracle signs and wonders as the frequency that you exist in. I think that that's where we're at. It's less about, well, how can I make that happen, and what can I make happen, and well, we'll just let that unpack itself.
Yeah.
It's less about trying to make something happen, and it's more about how big of a dream can I dream, and then let that unpack itself. Agree with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of likened it to when Moses led the people across the Red Sea.
Yes.
They all had to walk across the Red Sea. That was their work to do. But God did part the seas.
Right.
So it was kind of a combination of the two. God could have parted the seas and they'd have just sat their asses right there on this side. It wouldn't have made a hill of beans. But it was the waves parted and then everybody walked through. And I kind of feel like that's where we've been living. And I think that so many people are waking up to understand there's an opportunity to slip into that frequency. And it's a kind of a party.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's easier than working and striving. Sometimes you just gotta trust God and let go, and you'd be surprised at how often what you need will be there when you need it.
Yeah, right.
You can give yourself credit a lot of times for making things happen, but yeah, if you just let go sometimes and just trust in God, things will usually work out. Maybe not the way you plan, like if you want to win the lottery or something like that.
Right.
But when it comes to provision and providing for your needs, most all the time that I can think of, it just happens one way or another.
Thank you for sharing this stories so well.
Okay. I'm a good storyteller.
You are a good storyteller.
Impromptu today.
I think you're a gem, you're a jewel, and I want to share you with the world. I mean, not share all of you, but, at least share part of your story.